What in blazes is that? Hey! The Sun God fights on the side with the best artillery.
Today on Heroes 101, we're talking about a literal tank. Of course, referring to Captain Churchill, the hero with the highest DPS in the game. And that is no exaggeration, Captain Churchill can pretty much one-man most games you put him into. Unfortunately, to somebody who is newer or simply unexperienced, they might not understand exactly how to use Captain Churchill and where he's actually good. So that's why I'm going to explain exactly that today. Starting with how Captain Churchill actually works. From level 1, Churchill does 1 damage per shot with 15 pierce. This is complemented, however, by his absolutely massive range. I mean, come on, this covers like half the map. It is worth noting that Churchill's main anti-tank gun does explode several times upon impact, and as well has a pretty big blast radius. Now, of course, Churchill has more than one gun. At level 5, Churchill gains a machine gun that attacks 10 times a second and does 1 damage per shot. And unlike the main gun, you cannot target this one, so it's always going to be set to first. And a minor detail is that this machine gun does pop blacks, but it cannot pop leads, so yeah. I'm not going to cover each and every upgrade that these guns get, however, the important ones are as follows. At level 8, the main anti-tank gun can now attack twice a second. Between levels 12 and 14, both guns do double damage. And at level 20, the main gun goes from 5 to 8 damage. Now, of course, like all heroes, Churchill has 2 abilities, those being Armor-Piercing Shells and Moab Barrage. Armor-Piercing Shells is a pretty basic ability. It gives Churchill the ability to pop black balloons with his main gun, and as well, it gives him extra pierce. Although throughout the levels, it is upgraded a little bit to give extra damage and other such things. Moab Barrage is pretty much as advertised. It's an ability that shoots up to 10 Moabs on the screen with a array of missiles shooted from this little thing that he has. I don't know what it is. Each missile does 200 damage per shot, and the affected Moabs will be shot until either the layer is broken or until it has been hit 16 times. The ability, however, is only upgraded once when, at level 20, it goes from 200 to 500 damage. And now that you know how Churchill works, you may now be wondering, well, how do you use Captain Churchill? And I'm gonna answer that. Now, the first obstacle with using Churchill is to afford him to begin with. If you haven't noticed, Churchill is pretty expensive. For example, he's $1,945 on hard mode. And to be honest, the easiest way to save up for him is to just put other towers down first. There's no secret hack, no secret how to earn 1 million Chromer in the beginning of Bloonstar Defense 6 by H-Bomb. That doesn't exist. I guess unless if you want to put down a cash drop, which, no judgment, but at the same time, a lot of judgment. Personally, I usually go for a Dart substart, or if I'm on a harder map, I'd say a Ninja Elk start is pretty good too. Regardless, you're gonna want him down ASAP because he levels up pretty darn slow if that wasn't already evident. In fact, Churchill is the slowest leveling hero in the game, and because of that, he definitely needs a little bit of help in the early game. Heck, he doesn't even see camo until level 6, and that can be a pretty big hassle. One other thing you need to know before using Churchill is how to actually place him. And this one is kind of a hard truth because, for as powerful as he is, you need to use Churchill where he can shoot down a straight line or else he's practically useless. Not to say that he doesn't still do damage, but you might as well just use Geraldo, Quincy, or something else like that because without the straight line, his pierce is not used up, and that's one of his big advantages, being able to shoot a large group of people for a lot of damage. However, other than the leveling issue and the inability to not be straight, he actually doesn't really have that many other downsides, I suppose. And as for synergies, other than with the traditional buffing towers, honestly, for as long as you have something to clean up after his little mess, there isn't really much I could really say is a proper synergy because Churchill can go with anything. I mean, have you seen the list of 2-tower Chimps combinations? This guy can beat a lot of maps just with, like, let's say a Perma-Spike or Pins of Darkness. However, out of the traditional buffs, he probably goes best with the Overclock because Elk doesn't really do much for his main attack. And as well, I would highly recommend using a Moab Glue or Balloon Sabotage because Churchill benefits a whole lot from a slowed down Moab, or, ceramics I suppose. And that is how you use Churchill. I hope you learned something, or was at least entertained, I suppose. Because Churchill is one of my favorite heroes, to be quite honest, and for as long as you use him right, he could probably beat just about any map in the game, given you have him in the right spot. And also, before I go, look at the funny screenshot that indicates that you should check out links in the description. Yeah, okay. Now, I bid you all farewell. And that, how to use Churchill.